Do you want to be ahead of the game for the latest in arts, music, cuisine, and entertainment across the Middle East's most dynamic capital cities? Al Monitor is proud to launch our City Pulse newsletters, focused exclusively on local news, starting in Riyadh, Dubai, Istanbul, and Doha. Each week, our on-the-ground writers in these cities cover the latest cultural happenings and trends, so you have everything you need to know for the best local experiences. To subscribe for free, go to almonitor.com, that's al-monitor.com, and sign up on our newsletter page.
So they all said the same thing, be it Masroor Barzani, the Prime Minister of Iraqi Kurdistan, be it, of course, Mazlum Kobane. They all said that you need to have a decentralized model of governance in Syria, that there was no way that one group could sort of dictate the rules in a country like Syria, where you had so many different ethnic groups and confessional groups.
Welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief. I'm Adam Lucente. Syrian Democratic Forces commander Mazlum Kobane addressed the Middle East Peace and Security Forum in the Iraqi Kurdistan city of Dahuk on Wednesday. Kobane's presence at an event in a stronghold of the rival Kurdistan Democratic Party is significant in and of itself, given the historic rivalry between the KDP and the Democratic Union Party, the dominant party in SDF territory in Syria. Kobane notably sat next to Kurdistan Regional Government Prime Minister Masroor Barzani at the forum. The forum comes at a crucial time for Kurds in the region. Talks between the SDF and the Syrian government on integration into the new army are ongoing, but have faced challenges amid clashes between the two. Turkey, the primary patron of the new Syrian government, is closely watching those talks, as is the KRG, which, unlike the SDF, has energy and economic ties of its own with Ankara. In his speech, Kobane said that the SDF poses no threat to either Turkey or Syria. Turkey, of course, considers the SDF to be a branch of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK. Earlier this year, PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan notably ordered the group to disarm and cease its fight against the Turkish state. In this episode, we hear from Al Monitor's chief correspondent, Amberin Zaman. Amberin, who was at the forum, takes us through what Kobane's participation means for a Kurdish unity, the Turkey-PKK peace process, and negotiations on the SDF's integration into the new Syrian army. We also hear from her on what the KDP, which leads the KRG and performed well in last week's Iraqi elections, wants out of the next Iraqi prime minister, whether incumbent Mohammed Shia as-Sudani stays on or someone new takes his place. Hope you enjoy. Amberin, welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief.
Thanks for having me, Adam. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for joining us from this conference. So as we understand, General Mazlum Kobane, the commander of the Syrian Democratic Forces, made public remarks there in Dahuk. What is the significance of that and what was said?
Well, the symbolism of it cannot be overstated. This is the first time that Mazlum Kobane is appearing at a forum of this level, where you had very high-level officials from different countries. Prime Minister Sudani was there. The Iraqi foreign minister was there during this forum, the Peace and Security in the Middle East Forum that was organized under the auspices of Masroor Barzani and the American University in Kurdistan. But just this, this image we had today of him sitting next to Masroor Barzani was really quite extraordinary, because for the longest time, in fact, Masroor Barzani held Mazlum Kobane at arm's length. And today, together, they sent a very strong message of Kurdish unity. And both of them pretty much said the same thing when it came to describing the future of Syria, what they wanted to see there. So this was really quite a historic day in many ways.
And what do you think this means for the SDF's negotiations with Damascus? How could this affect that?
Well, sending this very strong message of unity was very important, because Mazlum Kobane was obviously the star of the show, but you also had the head of the Kurdish National Council, which is sort of the umbrella group for the main opposition Syrian Kurdish parties in northeast Syria. He was there today as well. And the KNC, this alliance of opposition parties, and the SDF have never really gotten along terribly well. Yet here they were sitting side by side. And also in the room, you had the former mayor of the biggest city, Kurdish city in the southeast of Turkey, Diyarbakir. He was there as well, and also talking about Kurdish unity. So, as I said, the symbolism cannot be overstated in terms of what practical impact, immediate impact it would have on negotiations with Damascus. Obviously, the fact that the two Kurdish groups in Syria were seem to be unified is already something. But, going forward, can Iraqi Kurdistan have any real influence over Damascus? That's debatable. But for me, what was really extraordinary about the whole thing was the fact that, this happened without Turkey intervening in some way, because let us not forget that Turkey is the top ally of the Kurdistan regional government. It's kind of a lifeline for the KRG because it opens up to the rest of the world through Turkey, through that border. And Turkey's support is critical to the KRG. And, we all know that Turkey has outsized influence over the KRG, and that the president, Necirvan Barzani, who was always also present, has a very close relationship with the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. So it's difficult to imagine that, had Turkey sort of very strongly objected to Kobane's presence, that he would have been able to show up and make these very public remarks and sort of get this rock star reception here. So this in turn suggests that, that things are kind of moving in the right direction in Turkey, in that peace process that's ongoing between Turkey and its own Kurds.
And Amberin, at this conference, what was the common message that the different Kurdish parties had towards Damascus?
So they all said the same thing, be it Masroor Barzani, the prime minister of Iraqi Kurdistan, be it this former mayor of Diyarbakir, or, of course, Mazlum Kobane. They all said that you need to have a decentralized model of governance in Syria, that there was no way that one group could sort of dictate the rules in a country like Syria, where you had so many different ethnic groups and confessional groups. And therefore, there needed to be a consensus between all the disparate ethnic groups, and that the idea that you can just run a tightly centralized Syria just won't work anymore. That was in the old days under the Assads.
Finally, I wanted to ask you about the Iraqi elections. Obviously, the Kurdistan Democratic Party, which leads the Kurdistan regional government, did quite well. What is the sense in the Kurdistan region about how the next government will look, and what do you think the main Kurdish actors are hoping will happen on that front?
Well, the Kurds did incredibly well, especially the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iraq. If we're looking at just parties, not alliances, because, there were several alliances that ran in this election. So candidates would appear on the ticket of a given alliance. But the KDP ran as an individual party and garnered the most votes as an individual party, more than, I believe, 1 million votes. So they have a pretty strong hand. You can't form a government in Iraq, and it's a very laborious process, a lot of horse trading that goes on without Kurdish support. So they will be looking to position themselves to get, the ministries that they want, and possibly help install a prime minister who is more open to some of their demands than, say, others have been.
And just for some listeners, I mean, what are those key demands as of now? Is it solely about the budget, or are there other matters?
Well, the budget, of course, is key. Oil sharing revenues, very important. And the whole issue of the disputed territories. resolving the future of those territories, because Article 140 of the Iraqi constitution says that you have to hold a referendum in a place like Kirkuk, which is one of the most critical disputed areas because there's a lot of oil there. That the Kurds really want to go forward with that, but as things currently stand, the current trend has been for Baghdad to sort of reassert central authority, to whittle away federalism, and of course that's very alarming for the Kurds. So as I said, they will want a candidate as prime minister who is not looking to reassert central authority, who on the contrary will be ready to implement the constitution in which federalism, of course, is enshrined.
Amberin, thanks a lot for your time, and we look forward to more of your reports on the ground.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks for listening to the Al Monitor Brief. Be sure to follow Al Monitor for more on the stories impacting the Middle East. Until next time, I'm Adam Lucente.